Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about CSS combinators, pseudo-classes, and pseudo-elements. First of all, let's cover our combinators in CSS. You already know that we have many options to select our elements in our CSS file. We can select them by their tag name, we can select them by ID and by class name. CSS selector can contain more than one simple selector. Between the simple selector, we can use combinators so we can select our elements more advanced. Here I have simple HTML file which is linked to this CSS file, and I've opened this with live server on my browser. Let's say we have div here, and inside this div we have our first paragraph, and then we have one section right here that includes our second paragraph. I say this is in section, and then we have two other paragraphs, our P3 and P4. And let's say we have another paragraph here, P5, which is in the body. You know that if we want to, for example, change the color of all paragraphs, we can select our P tag and give this a color of, for example, red. Now let's say we want all paragraphs inside our div to be red, but not this last paragraph which is inside our body tag. To do that, first here we gonna use our div, and if we use space, as you see, it selects all of the paragraph tags inside our div tags. You see now our first tag, second, third, and fourth tag has selected and changed to red, but our fifth paragraph is in its original and default color. But in some situations, we want to select only the tags which is the direct children of this div and not the second children of that. To apply this rule, we use simple greater than sign right here, and as you see now, we have selected only the direct child of that parent tag, which is div in this case. We have another option that we can select a tag after coming from another tag. For example, if we want to select the tag after this section tag, which is our third paragraph, we can use our section right here, and then if we use this plus sign, you see now we have selected the element after this section tag, but this only select the next tag, not the others. But if we want to select all of the paragraph tags after this section tag, we can use tilde instead of plus sign, and as you see now we have selected this P4 and P3 tag. And if we want to select this P5 tag, we can use this with div. It selects all of the paragraphs after this div. And for example, if we have some other paragraphs right here, you can see we have selected all of them. And if we use plus sign right here instead of that mark, you see we have selected only the first one after our div. Then we have our pseudo classes in our CSS. What pseudo classes are is simply they are something that's used to define a special state of an element. For example, first let's select our section right here, and we have to use double columns to use our pseudo classes. Here, if we say, for example, hover, it means if we hover on this section, the color of the text inside this section is going to be red. For example, as you see now, if I hover on this part is going to be red. The most used of pseudo classes are in our anchor tags. For example, if we have anchor tag right here, for example, we don't want anything, but here we're going to say link. You see now this is our link. And if I select our anchor tag right here, I have 4 pseudo class that I can play with in this situation. The first thing that we have and user sees, which is link, After that, we have visited. And after that, we have our active mode. First, let's give this a simple URL. For example, https:// let's say test.com. Now, this link state is the first state that visitor sees. And this is unvisited link by the visitor. For example, here we can make the color, let's say yellow. You see now we have yellow on this link. Then we have this visited one, which going to apply when user had visited the link already. For example, let's say we have another link right here, and this is google.com. As you see, because I have visited google.com, this link is going to behave differently. Let's say we give this color of, for example, blue. Now, as you see, this has changed. Another thing that we have is our hover effect, that we can use this in all of our elements, such as divs, sections, paragraphs, and all of our HTML tags. And this rule applied when user mouses over our tag. For example, let's say we want the color to be red. Now, if I hover on any link in my web page, you see the color is going to be red. And the final one, we have this active, which is going to apply when user selects the link and click on that link. For example, let's make the color green when user clicks on that. You see now, if I hover on this, we have this red one, but if I click on this and hold the click, you see now this is changed to green. So this is the link when user first sees, which is this link pseudo class. Then we have this visited, which is this one that we have already visited at least one time. Then we have this hover, which applies when user mouses over any link or any tag in our web page. And in the last one, we have this active, which when user selects that and click on that, we have that link and state. Let's delete these links right here and use our hover pseudo class on our section, for example. Now let's say we have our section with the background color of red. And let's say we have our div with background color of green. We can make the display of this section to none. And as you see, we don't have that section anymore in our web page. But we can apply this rule, which is when we have our div hovered, this section inside that is going to be display block. Now, if I mouse over this green part, we should see our red section right here. And if I take my mouse out of this green box, it will going to be hidden. We can use some other things. For example, we can make the background blue. Now, if I hover on this, the section's background is going to be blue. And when I go out of the box, it's going to be back to its original. After this, for example, if we want to select first child of elements, we are going to use first child pseudo classes. For example, here we have P and here we type first child. And let's make the background red. Now you see only P1 and P2 has selected. This is because only P1 and P2 is the first child. You see inside our div, we have 4 children, which P1 is the first one. And here in our section, we have our P2, which is the first child of our section tag. And we have this paragraph tag, also second child, because we have this body tag then this div is the first tag, and after this we have this paragraph tag. After this we have the same rule for the last child, which this is again P4 is the last child, and again this P2 is the first and the last. But if I duplicate this, you'll see only the second one is going to be selected, which is the last child. Next thing that we have is our pseudo-elements. Pseudo-elements is used to style specified parts of an element. For example, it can be used to style the first letter, last letter, or something of an element, or we can use to insert content before or after of the element. For example, let's say we want to use pseudo-element on our p tags. To use pseudo-elements, we are going to use 2 double columns and then our pseudo-element name. For example, here I'm going to select first letter, and as you see, we have selected all of the first letters of our p tags and make the background of them red. You see now we have all of these and selected them and changed their background. We have first line 2, for example, if we have double line element, let's say we have this like this. You see now we have only selected the first line and not the second line. And this is dynamic, so if we change the size, you see always our first line has selected. We can use pseudo-elements to add something before or after of our elements. For example, here if I type after, I am putting something after our p tags. And if we want to have something after our element, we are going to use this content property and give this the value that we want. For example, if we want the test value here, we are going to give the test string to the content. And let's say we want the background of them to be red. Now you see we have this test after all of our paragraphs. We have our paragraphs here, and after that we have our test inserted here. And we can do this with before too, which is applied before our p tags, and we have our content there. Another cool pseudo element that we can use is our selection pseudo element, which if we use this, we don't need content here, but if we use this, you see now we have background red. It means wherever I select inside my web page, which that text is inside my paragraph tag, is going to be red background. You see now if I select any part of this paragraphs, we have this. But if we have some span here with test text or an H2 with title text, for example, you see now if I select this, they are going to be selected normally. But if I select these are going to select differently. And if I change this to H2, for example, you see now this is going to be selected normal, and if I select our H2 is going to shown differently. Another pseudo element that we can use is our marker pseudo element, and we are going to use them inside our lists. So let's create simple lists right here. Let's say we have unordered list with 5 list items inside it. They all are item. And let's say we have another ordered list which has 3 list items, and these are item 2. Now, we can use pseudo elements with no selectors before them. For example, if I have this selection right here in this type, in the syntax, is going to apply to all of our web page. Now, if I select all of the text, which has no difference to wherever it is, it's going to have red background, as you see. Now, instead of this selection, I'm going to use marker pseudo element. And this is going to select these markers, such as bullets or numbers, in our list. And if I give this, for example, color of red, now you see all of our markers have changed to red. We have a bunch of our pseudo elements and classes, which I'm going to give you a link in the description, that if you go to that, you can see a list of all of our pseudo elements and classes, and you can use this in your projects. Please do like and subscribe to catch next videos.